This is the Padua Podcast Network.
Could the vaccines increase the risk of HIV? This rumor is based on a Lancet article urging caution based on past HIV vaccine trials. By contrast, the flu virus mortality rate, which varies from year to year, is about 0.1%. So COVID is 20 to 30 times as likely to kill you. Even if only a fraction of the people are prevented from getting the disease because they themselves were vaccinated, the community benefits the more people get the vaccine. Running a Fever, Episode 238, Rumors of COVID Vaccine Side Effects. Man, I love that theme music. I guess I have a musical mind. I always get music in my head when something comes in a conversation or anything else. And I was thinking of a couple of 80s songs that were called Rumors and that I remember. I checked it out, and there's like 1,000 songs with the title Rumors. 1,000 songs, over 1,000. So there you go. Seems like a pretty popular topic and almost always problematic. It applies something less reliable than, say, information or news or data or even story. And since we're talking about our health and literally life and death choices, rumors become not just problematic but dangerous. Now, I haven't done an episode on COVID lately because I figure you probably know most of what you need to know from the massive amount of media attention the vaccines are getting. And that's where we are in this thing. Fortunately, we are at the point where there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But I've heard some rumors, and I think I can help clarify the facts about the vaccines. First, the basics. In the United States, there are 2 vaccines that are approved or expected to be approved very soon for widespread use on an emergency basis by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. This approval is called Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA. Now, despite the massive effort to develop and test the vaccines, they have not been through enough review process to be called FDA approved. But circumstances such as we face now, as well as some proof that the drugs will not harm the public, warrant the drug's use anyway, and that's why they call it an emergency use authorization. So you can be assured, according to the FDA, that the vaccines, quote, may be effective to prevent COVID-19, end quote, and that, quote, the known and potential benefits of the product outweigh the known and potential risks of the product. What are those risks? The vaccines are the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which was approved yesterday, December 11th, 2020. UK approval was 8 days earlier. And another vaccine from Moderna called the mRNA 1273. The FDA has a meeting scheduled 5 days from now to discuss Moderna's application for EUA. The reported side effects of the Pfizer vaccine are injection site pain. The vaccine is administered via intramuscular injection. Tiredness, headache, muscle pain, chills, joint pain, fever, injection site swelling, injection site redness, nausea, feeling unwell, swollen lymph nodes, and an allergic reaction which could include difficulty breathing, swelling of face and throat, rapid heartbeat, a bad rash all over the body, and dizziness and weakness. About 1.6% of Americans have a food allergy. I think that's Americans, but anyway. There's nothing in the above list, in my opinion, that outweighs the potential benefit of preventing COVID-19. In fact, I think I've had all of those in the last year or two. They will cause discomfort, but not serious, although the allergic reaction could be serious. There was a rumor I personally heard about some study participants getting Bell's palsy. And as far as that statement goes, it is true. according to the Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee, VRB-PAC, which is, I guess I could say VRB-PAC. I don't know. There's some reason they have an acronym, but which is a committee of the FDA that does these reviews. 4 participants in the study, which included 38,000 people, some of whom were given placebo, each had a case of Bell's palsy. These participants, by the way, Bell's palsy is a disease. It's acute. Some people have it over a long period of time, but it's not a permanent thing. It just affects a nerve in your face, and it makes you your face. You're unable to move. It's basically paralyzed like a stroke victim, and it does only affect one side of the face. So these participants that got Bell's palsy were given the real vaccine, and no cases occurred in the placebo group. However, the amount of people that got it is no higher. That rate of people is no higher than the occurrence of Bell's palsy in the general population. So it's not considered to be really significant. Coincidental, in fact. The Pfizer vaccine is the first approved messenger RNA or mRNA vaccine. Bill Gates was reported to say that the RNA vaccine will change our DNA forever. At least one YouTube video has made this claim. The claim that he said this is not exactly true, though it depends on your interpretation of his speech. But the claim that a person's DNA will be changed by the vaccine is false. According to the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, mRNA from the vaccine never enters the nucleus of the cell and does not affect or interact with a person's DNA. So check the CDC website where there's some good, accessible, you don't have to be a doctor to understand it, information on how mRNA vaccines work. And just a note, Bill Gates is a professional philanthropist and donates over $1 billion a year for global health. However, he's neither a medical doctor or a scientist, and may not be true, but as far as I know, his organization may fund research, but I haven't seen any evidence that it actually conducts research. So I stick with sources I trust, like the CDC, Mayo Clinic, and even the FDA. But I don't think Bill Gates necessarily said what they said he said. Another rumor is that Pfizer's vaccine causes infertility in both men and women. This is not true. The site that published this article has a bunch of claims like this, and I have a link for you if you really want to go to get some bad information. But the article is based on a request from a doctor who is a former Pfizer executive from like 9 years ago, and he was much more careful in what he actually said. He didn't say the vaccine will cause infertility. The current Pfizer spokesperson said in an email to the Associated Press, quote, "It has been incorrectly suggested that COVID-19 vaccines will cause infertility because of a shared amino acid sequence in the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 and a placental protein. The sequence, however, is too short to plausibly give rise to autoimmunity." End quote. I was unable to find an independent statement on this. This is from Pfizer, but I also don't see any reputable source saying that it is true. And it's another one of those things where they say, if they say something like, the vaccine causes this, definitely, that's probably not true. Even if it is a side effect, it probably only affects a fraction of the people who get it. Moderna's mRNA-1273 vaccine candidate is in phase 3, which means a larger number of participants and a longer list of things to test. This was actually developed in a partnership with the National Institutes of Health. Some results have come in, and the most common solicited adverse reactions included injection site pain, fatigue in 9.7% of participants, myalgia, which is muscle aches and pain, in 8.9% of participants, arthralgia, which is joint pain, 5.2%, headache, and erythema, or redness at the injection site. These numbers are significantly higher than in the Pfizer study, but they're the same symptoms. So far, no serious safety concerns. Now, a lot of these milder symptoms in both of these vaccines are similar to what you would get if you had any viral infection. Both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines prescribe 2 doses 3 weeks apart, and the Moderna study participants found more severe side effects after the second dose. Now, since mRNA 1273 is also an mRNA drug, you can expect that the same rumors about DNA alteration apply. But honestly, I didn't find a lot of rumors about this vaccine specifically, possibly since there's so much light was thrown on the first approved vaccine from Pfizer. There was one article on the site I mentioned above which claimed Moderna applied for a patent and warned of a deliberate coronavirus release, which sounds pretty far-fetched to me. But it's out there. Other vaccines are not as far along in the development and approval process. There are a few general rumors that have appeared, though. I mean, these are just like general vaccine rumors or COVID-19 vaccine rumors. Could the vaccines increase the risk of HIV? This rumor is based on a Lancet article urging caution based on past HIV vaccine trials. The study data is not consistent. In other words, they found an increased risk in one group, in one study, and in another study found no increased risk. So there's no sort of consistency. There's no agreement yet between in those studies. But it is a possibility for vaccines which use what they call the AD5 vector, and that doesn't apply to either of the two that I mentioned earlier. Those are mRNA vaccines. But there are candidate COVID-19 vaccines being developed. There are 2 companies, CanSino Biologics and Immunity Bio, that use this vector, among others, I'm sure. Now, in addition to the Bill Gates altered DNA videos, some are claiming he wants to secretly implant microchips in everyone in the guise of giving a vaccine shot. There is evidence of a digital certificate contained in ink injected with a vaccine. So that's something that they have studied at the Gates Foundation. But so I don't know. Say what you want about that. It's not been implemented anywhere, according to my sources. Do vaccines contain the lung tissue of an aborted baby? This was claimed about the vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. Some embryonic cells are used to produce lab-grown cells used in the development process, but the actual vaccine, they want it to be very clean and contain only what it needs to contain, and it doesn't contain any of these cells. But embryonic cells are apparently used in the development process. Is the vaccine necessary if COVID-19 has a 99.97 recovery rate? This is one that's probably going to be the most dangerous out there. Now, this showed up in a meme on Facebook, but there is kind of this sort of feeling, do I really need to get it? It's not that bad. I had that feeling in the beginning. I'm like, I don't really care if I get it. I don't want anybody else to get it. I don't want to pass it on to anybody else. But first of all, that recovery rate is wrong. The U.S. mortality rate for COVID-19 as of today, according to the CDC, is 1.8%. An August report had it at over 3%. That is very high. By contrast, the flu virus mortality rate, which varies from year to year, is about 0.1%. So COVID is 20 to 30 times as likely to kill you. Now, I get a flu shot every year, even though it may be only 40% effective. One reason is that even if I get the virus and it doesn't affect me much, I may transmit it to someone else. For example, someone over 65 years of age, a group that has a 0.83 mortality rate from the flu, more than 10 times the rate for my age group. My parents, who are in the 75 to 84 age group, have a 20.8% chance of dying if they get COVID. That's 1 in 5. So if you pass it on to one of these people, I mean, in every case, where did they get that from? Everyone who dies from COVID in that group or any other age group, they got it from somebody else. So there you go. I just really want to emphasize this a lot. Yes, it is necessary. Yeah. So there are a lot of unknowns because the virus, the disease, and the vaccines are also new. Okay, so there are side effects that we don't know about that are going to show up. But let me emphasize the word unknowns in that sentence, meaning beware of claims that the vaccine will definitely cause one bad thing or another. Anything like that is bound to be false. I mean, even the published side effects will only occur in a fraction of people who are vaccinated. So that's one thing to look out for. A couple of months ago, a survey of Americans found that more than half of those surveyed said they would not get the vaccine when it was available. The concern was that it was too soon. They just rushed this through. There hasn't been enough work to determine if it would be safe. And now that more than half number comes from September, and it has been 3 months, which means there's been more time to be put into the vaccines. And also we've had this surge, where the rate of infection has just skyrocketed. So I think that's changing now. And let me just tell you what this comes down to for me. I definitely will get a vaccine when it's available to me. As I said before, I get a flu shot every year. I view the COVID vaccine in the same light, in fact, even more so. It's not just for me. Even if only a fraction of the people are prevented from getting the disease because they themselves were vaccinated, the community benefits the more people get the vaccine. In fact, this year, because, of social distancing, I got my flu shot in a drive-through at the VA. I just kind of drove up, opened the door, they gave me the shot, and I drove away. And I'm really hoping they make the COVID vaccine available in the same way because, folks, you still need to be vigilant. Just because the vaccine's available doesn't mean it stops killing people immediately, and especially when we haven't even gotten it yet. Nobody's gotten it yet. So the purpose here was not to just debunk every single rumor out there about vaccines. It was to emphasize that we need to be experts in our own health. Go read. Get the real info. Don't trust rumors. Don't even trust me. Go find out for yourself. And by the way, the FDA has its own podcast called FDA Insight, and they talk about COVID, obviously, and the vaccines especially. And just FYI, I spent a lot of time on this episode, far more than I usually do. I spent most of today working on this and not much else. And I'm going to release it tonight. I wanted to get this out today because next week people are going to start being able to get vaccinated, and you need to know the real deal. There's a big list of references in the show notes, just like more than half a page of references. So check that out. Get smart before you say you're not going to get the vaccine for whatever reason. Go out and find out the truth about it, and make your own decision there. But for me, I'm going to get it. Right. So if you got the fever, keep it. If you don't, catch it. And I'll talk to you next time. Look at all these rumors surrounding me.